job, she got the name right. Well done. It looked entirely different before that announcement.
Hence the pause.
Are you going to control putting it on?
Oh, yeah, that might help.
That would help. Does anyone want to move forward? Anyone want to warm up the seats at the front? I do have a tendency to pick on people that are in the back. Just saying. Sure you don't want to move forward? I'm so going to pick on people now. I had no plan to, but now I'm going to. So, I'm talking to you today about why being you is enough. You're obviously here, thank you, because you have a question mark around that statement. Am I right? Do you think you're enough completely as you are? Anyone perfectly happy with who they are? Good for you! Here you go. So, specifically, because we're in Women in the Workplace, I'm talking to you about what we do about it. Girl! What's up here? Okay. Here we go. Specifically, what I'm talking about is the masks that we put on in the workplace. So, we make a decision that we're not enough exactly as we are. This lady has no mask, she's purely beautiful. Thank you for being bold, being beautiful, and being heard. So, why do we do that? Well, we make a decision somehow that we're not enough. When do we make it? It doesn't start at the beginning of our lives. So we start out life, we don't do very much, we just giggle and gurgle and coo and cry, but somehow we go, oh, we get all those sorts of reactions, and that's all we know for quite a long time. And then, all of a sudden, these arrive, and we go, hold on a minute, I had quite a nice existence, I was having a great time, thank you, and all I got was positive feedback. And then all of a sudden we enter the world of kind of structure and institution, and there are expectations. All of a sudden we hear the word no. We've never heard that before. What do you mean I can't do what? I've just spent 2 years practically doing what I want, and then the terrible twos come along. Mine were at 3 years old, by the way. Anyone who doesn't know about the terrible twos, they're not always at 2 years old. At that point you hear, no, you mustn't do that. No, not here. In this environment we behave this way. In that environment we do this. And so we're kind of like this a lot. And as girls, we do it even more. So boys will go, yeah, whatever. And they'll carry on. They won't necessarily follow the rules straight away. Boys are notoriously going to go off and explore. When they start on the stairs, they won't go, how deep is that? Can I make it first time? They don't do any assessment, global statement, I recognise. They'll hurl themselves down and go, huh, and then they'll probably do it again a few more times. Girls are much more likely to condition themselves with the learning and use that learning to move forward. Now that's great, except for the fact that then when you go out into the big wide world, you're listening for more learning. And that learning can come in the form of that, criticism. So we start hearing messages, whether they are directed as criticism or not, as criticism. We hear it as more expectation. Right, so when I said X, I got reaction Y. That can't be good then. Well, then I'm now going to decide to be different. And I really fear this. It's not very nice. Therefore, I'm going to adapt the way that I behave. Now, if you put that, someone in another room put this into a sort of dating scenario earlier. And my best friend used to have a boyfriend who would say, well, I just ask out anyone I want until they reject me. You know, he didn't have that whole, well, I'm punching way above my weight over there, I'm not even going to try. Honestly, my best friend's like a supermodel. So he just goes up and he goes, hi, so, you know, why don't we go out? Let's go out. And she went, all right, I'll go out with anyone this bold. Yeah. Because his way of operating was, well, until she rejects me, why wouldn't I ask? Again, it goes back to the stairs scenario. The boy's going to go, well, I'm going to chuck myself down until she rejects me. Whereas we have been learning, sorry boys, we women have been learning, oh, that doesn't work when we do that, right, mustn't do that anymore. So then when we put that into the workplace scenario, I don't know why I can't go the right way, we put on one of these. We put on a mask because we think, okay, that person just says, I'm not going to get that job because I'm too quiet. I'm talking about me now, and probably many of you. I was in a very, very successful position, and the feedback I got was, she's too quiet, she's never going to make it. Can you imagine anyone saying I was too quiet? Okay, so what did I do to change that? I put on this mask, and I was confident, and I used to strut around, and in a meeting I'd say, yeah, I've got a view on that. Guess what they said then?
Too loud.
Too aggressive. Then I went, okay, too aggressive. Right, how do I fix this one? I know. I will start being more inquisitive. I'll be a bit more curious, and I'll be a bit more intriguing, and I'll ask more questions. Guess what they said?
Too indirect or something?
She asked too many questions.
Oh.
She hasn't got her own mind. She hasn't got a view. And so on, and so on, and so on, until that happened. And steam came out everywhere. Now, as much as I was trying to hold it all together, be graceful, be the female, the only one in the business, wasn't working. Because as a wonderful lady put it in another room just earlier, I was trying to keep beach balls under the water. I was pressing so hard to keep concealed all of these masks, or everything that was under these masks, that I didn't really know who I was. Because look, there's a bit of that peering through, there's a bit of this coming through. Nothing was really covered. So, steam came out of everywhere. Anyone know where this quote is from? Can everyone see it? If I do it with an accent, it might help. I'm sorry for the way I behaved in my youth. I had a lot of self-doubt, and it manifested itself in a lot of unchecked rage and aggression.
Oh, it's gone? Woody and...
Oh, I expect it's
As a politician?
Yeah, but no.
No?
Anyone got kids?
Yeah.
Zootropolis,
Oh.
Gideon Grey, horrendous character, fox, nasty. What was happening? Thought he had to be the fox, put on a load of masks to say he was great, and actually went through his whole cycle in life where he realised that was not working for him. So here's the first question. Do we really think wearing a mask is that valuable? In the short term, we go, let me just cover this one thing that I think is a problem. Then you cover the next thing, and then the next, and then the next. And then when you get to thing 6 that you want to cover up, you might forget that you actually are that thing. Because it's so buried that now you think you have to put a mask on for it. And now that thing, whatever it may be, comes across as fake. When actually, if you stripped away all those masks, it's actually you. But you've lost touch with it completely. So who are you really? Does anyone, apart from that beautiful lady at the back, can anyone say, this is who I am, with complete confidence, without having a lot of self-doubt? It's really difficult, because at some point you will have made a decision to cover up an aspect of yourself. If you don't know who you are, you don't know the answer to that either. What do you really want? How can you possibly know if you don't know who you are? And if you've had a massive departure from that person? So, this is why we put the masks on in the first place. We just want to be good. We want to be good mothers. We want to be good employees. We want to be good bosses. We want to be good friends. But we're not being true because we're covering up all the great aspects of ourselves. So the cost of doing this is, first of all, it's blooming tiring. It's really tiring to keep, first of all, opening yourselves up for criticism. Because this is how it starts. You start going, oh, I heard some criticism. Oh, okay, that feels a bit odd. Criticism, And then you go to the next bit and you go, someone's going to criticise me when I go and speak in that room. You start to expect it. Then you go a step further and you go on, you're going to criticise me, aren't you? Go on, just hit me with it now, criticise me. We start looking for it. And when we start looking for it, we're actually inviting it. So when you go back to the beginning, what you were inviting was praise and kitschy-coo and wonder and joy and light in people's faces. And actually now, even though you've been trying really hard just to be good, now you've ended up in a space where all you get is criticism. Why? Because that's all you can hear. So when you're inviting criticism, and when that's where your listening is going, it might not be criticism at all, but that's what you hear, and that's what you choose to see. So it's really blooming tiring, but it kills your self-esteem as well. So then when you want to try and do something new and exciting, you've got this track record, and everything the whole beginning of wonder seems to have gone. Am I depressing you yet? Like, why do we therefore bother wearing a mask? Does anyone see any value in it?
I think when you're going into your own business and entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
that's when it's like you can take off the mask, you can be your thing, because you have the control. But when you're somewhere and you do have to appease a boss, and if you don't fit in with the company culture, you can get the cold shoulder in meetings and things like that, speaking from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it was actually that pushed me out of that role, because, and I imagine perhaps the same happened for you, that I knew that I wanted to be able to be myself, and if I couldn't in that organisation and I couldn't in another organisation, then I had to start my own thing so that I could be myself unapologetically.
Here's my opinion, that whether you're in a job or not, that pattern can build quite easily until you stop it dead. And the reason for that is, when people go, well, I don't want to be judged like this anymore, or I don't want to feel that I can't speak up in meetings, so I'll leave this company and I'll go to another job. Guess what happens? The problem comes with you. That's quite simple. It will stay with you, because the problem, hate to say it, is you. In the best way possible. So when I say the problem is you, that means you've got the power to do something about it. All it is how you view the world. All it is how you are labelling those comments, they're just comments, as criticism. You're looking for expectations. What if you set your own? Who says you have to listen to other people's expectations and meet them? We're conditioned to, but we don't have to. So arguably, when you go off and start your own business, anyone thinking of starting your own business? Anyone in their own business already? Okay, so quite a lot of people actually, given that we're women in the workplace, workplace could be our own business. In the age of social media, getting out there is just as bad as being in the job, in the sense that it's all about you. So now the spotlight's completely on you. And some people love that. People assume that I love that. But the reality is I need to do it. And my fear has to be smaller than my desires. And when I do it, I don't want to create the same problem I had before, so I do it on my terms. I talk about what I want to talk about, and I go and do it in places that I want to do it in. But at the same time, it's very easy to fall into the trap of feeling that you have to do it. So there might be people that aren't very confident. There are people that never want to stand up here and speak. Is there anyone that would fill with dread? There's a few people going, because they don't even want to put their hands up and say it. But it's normal. It's normal to not want to stand up here and do it. It's normal to not want to do a Facebook Live. It's normal to not want to go on video. But this is what I mean. What you've got to do, and I'm going to give you 6 steps to do it, is connect to who you are. That only you can be that person. And we've seen the cost of wearing a mask. It makes no sense to do it. Does anyone now see value still? I had no hands up before. No, there's no point. It's absolutely no point. But the worst thing about wearing a mask is that you will lose sight of everything that's great about you. All the things that you were hired for. When you get hit with that self-sabotaging habit, whatever it may look like, when you get hit with that, you forget the great thing that is the reason that you are in the position that you're in. So the more masks you layer, the more distance you put between who you are at your heart, at your core, and how valuable you can be in the workplace. Okay? So, my story is that I came full circle. So I did that, I started here, and I amended myself a little bit here, and I amended myself a little bit there, and I wore a mask over here, and I put a bit more makeup on over there, until I didn't recognise who I was anymore. And then one day I realised I'd got to this really great place. Can anyone guess what that great place looked like? Good answer.
Some
yeah.
sort of leadership role or something?
Sorry, let me rephrase that. So
Oh.
mentally, what place was
Oh.
I in? So, I started here. I went dun, 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 change, cover. Where did I end up?
In the darkness.
Oh, back to where you started again?
Back to where I started. Now, why is that a problem?
You're not progressing.
Not progressing?
Yes.
Yeah. But the point is, why did I spend all my time and energy trying to cover it up?
Yeah.
When actually, I spent time trying to cover it up, but I actually spent more time and money chipping it off again. Because the thing is, when you layer all those masks up and you put that distance between who you valuably really are and this fake thing that you're wearing, maybe you're not wearing it, but this fake thing that most people wear, you just don't know what it looks like anymore. And it's scary then to start taking them off. So you've got to ask yourself, can I? Or maybe you should ask a different question. How can I not? How can I keep going in this exhausting, low self-esteem place where I'm at the bottom of the list? How can I keep going with that? The answer is you don't, because you believe this. You're enough. Exactly as you are. The only problem you have is trying to cover that up. That's the only problem we've got. When you get hired, people see this. And then you get there and you start covering it up. And they go, who's that person? That's not the person I hired. You are enough. Is there anyone that doesn't believe that? Okay, I'm going to assume that everyone that's smiling with their hands down really needs to put their hands up. Because we've all got people in our lives that believe that we're enough. I have clients, and I tell them this at the beginning of their journey, and they go, yeah. Well, see, the problem is, what you don't get is, yeah, but you didn't know about this part of me. They're trying to cover it up, and I'm like, no, let's just celebrate this for a moment. I might not believe I'm enough, but my husband believes I'm enough. My daughter believes I'm enough. The people around me believe I'm enough. And when you can say that, that's when you can start to believe that you're enough. So, here's how you take your mask off safely. You've got to connect with who you are when you're not in fear of judgment. So when we go through that decision-making process of putting on that mask, it's because we've made a decision that we've been judged, or we fear that we might be. So if we had no fear, if I were to get a special magic hoover and go around and scoop up all the fear of judgment and any judgment that anyone's ever made of you that is unhelpful. Sometimes people will judge you as I really like her. That's all right. You can live with that judgment. It's the judgment that doesn't serve you. It doesn't add any value to your life. The best thing about me and my husband is that when I met him, he didn't need me. It was the most attractive thing about him. He did not need me, but I made him better. And vice versa. And that is what I'm talking about here. If you hear something and you go, that's going to make me better, take it. Seize it. But if you hear something and you go, that's not going to help me quite so much, don't even let it in. Stand guard at your mind. Honour who you really are, in your heart, who the people that love you, that don't judge you, those people know who that is. If you're sitting here and you don't know who that is, brace yourself for a very teary set of feedback when you get home and you ask people that love you and approve of you and value you this question. It will hit you like a flood. Remember that. I'm going to come back to it in a moment. Create goals based on joy. So I have a saying that is connect to your joy. And what I mean by this is, when I was in that vacuous corporate job, I was really successful. I was really good at my job. I was really well paid. I travelled the world. Tick, tick, tick. How did I feel? Empty. Isolated. Like I was lost. I lost relationships. I mainly lost relationships. but I also lost career time. Because I was going for this thing that went, okay, people that are good go this way. Oh, if I'm good at my job, I'll get that role. Oh, but if I pass that exam, I can go over here. Oh, but, and so my career path went on. At no point did I go, I would love to do that. That looks really exciting. I wasn't led by my joy. And so coupled with trying to please everyone, I also wasn't actually doing anything that lit my life up. Like, that equation just does not calculate. So you've got to create goals based on joy, and that takes courage. Does anyone know what it takes courage to do? First step. What's your gut telling you? Say no. Okay. Anyone else?
Take a good hard look at yourself. Be honest with
Which
yourself.
might not always be pretty. Yeah. Just some.
Face your truth.
Basic. Yeah. Anyone else?
Make sure you choose.
Yeah. And let me tell you this. This is my personal experience or my clients' experiences. When you are courageous and you look at yourself, guess what? What you see is about a bazillion times better than you thought you were going to see. And I don't know why we spend so long trying not to look. Because what is underneath those masks is magical. Absolutely magical. And it is the thing that will unlock whatever passion you've got inside you to do what you really want to do. Whether it's for work, whether it's voluntarily, whether it's with children, whatever. But if you keep wearing those masks, you'll never access it. So it just takes courage to get out of your head. It's your head that's making the decisions to put on all these masks. And just drop into your heart and say, if money wasn't the reason, if I wasn't afraid of being judged, if I could not fail, then what? You'd have one thing to rely on, and it's this. Follow your joy. Now, I'm not one of these woo-woo people that's going to say, just follow your joy and fly away. And blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying is plan your life out based on what makes you happy. And, you're not relying on anyone else to bring you that. You're being led to what's in your life because of that. They're two very different things, and I believe it's what led me to my husband. Before that, I had very stock, tall, dark, handsome, successful, men. And actually, my husband is tall, dark. Actually, no, he's not dark, it's great. But, he was dark once. The point is, what led me to him was nothing but, it was different. There was something different about him, which called something different about me. I didn't go into my usual groove in a relationship. I found my way within it by being completely myself. Now, I'll tell you the key to that. I never thought it was going to work out. So I had no attachment to him whatsoever. Why? Because he's 19 years older than me. He's a tennis coach, and I thought he does something like a hobby for a living. He can't be successful. See how I was judging? Because I thought, well, he hasn't got a high-paid job and he hasn't got this. What's he got? Loads of joy. Loads and loads of joy. So when you start to access that in you, you start being attracted to other people like that. And then you have very little criticism around you. When the people in your sphere of influence are all positive, warm, connected people, that's because you're calling that in. So if you suddenly start accessing these people and going, they're different, that's because you have unlocked something, and I really hope that happens for you as a result of today. But you've got to create boundaries. By knowing what that feels like, you also know what it doesn't feel like. So it's about not holding the people in your life that don't bring you that. Not having the people with the toxic views. Not having the people that hold you back. Not having the people that are naysayers. You've always got those people that go, I'm not sure that's going to work. Well, why would you want to do that? God, aren't you happy enough? No, I'm not, and it's my life, so... But they're not adding any value. So going back to what I said earlier, if they're bringing you something, let them in all day long. If they're taking something away or making you go back to that awful pattern of hearing criticism, let them go. Maybe they won't be that person for someone else. Let them go. Has anyone got someone in their life they could do with letting go?
Just did.
Yeah, doesn't it feel good? Not yet, she's still breathing. It will.
bit raw.
Bit raw, yeah, okay. So this is what I mean about surrounding yourself by unconditional support. Being undeterred, what do you think I mean by that? Because you could read this a number of different ways.
Not giving up, because
It's just not giving up on, who did you say it? Not giving up? On what? Who said not giving up? Oh, not giving up on what?
yourself,
Yeah?
on your dream.
So going back to the who are you really and what do you really want, it's about being undeterred by that. What's the alternative? I had to put a picture of a man on here, sorry. There is no alternative. It's like a prison. Hopefully I've demonstrated that. Now for 5 people that are thinking, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want, then I take people from that state of confusion to unshakable confidence. Not to a point where you are reliant on external circumstances to do this for you, where you can rely on what's in here, but it takes practice. So for 5 people, I am going to give you a free coaching session on this. There's absolutely no obligation, I just love doing it. And being optimistic, I've given you the winner /. So hopefully if you fill that out, you will be. So that's susieramroop.com /winner. So it's my name, spelled correctly. .com/winner. So this, we've already had a bit of Greatest Showman action in here next door today. I like to have a little bit of a dance. I'm not going to sing, but when the sharpest words want to cut you down, you have to send that flood that I talked about to drown them out. You know these are the lyrics, right? Check out that song, listen. There is nothing that you need to let in that does not bring you value. Everything that brings you value, welcome it with open arms, like this. This is you. Embrace it. Don't let anyone teach you to be anyone different. There are free resources on my website. You may check out my Facebook page. I always have videos that you can interact with me on and various opportunities to meet me on webinars and in person. So check out my Coach Susie Ramroop Facebook page. And if anyone has any burning questions, I can take them now or in the break. I think we're just about in time. Anyone got any questions for me? Okay. Thank you very much.